my brother whispered to my parents while I lay in a hospital bed. "He will not survive. Now let's just steal his money." My mother gave a nod. "In any case, he won't require it." I feigned unconsciousness. However, I had a ton of missed calls on my phone this morning. They had lost everything. All right, Reddit. After putting it off for weeks, I'm finally posting this. I'm still furious as hell, so be prepared for a lengthy read. Please pardon any typos. My hands are still trembling after days of crying and rage. In my family, I, 32M, have always been the one in charge. Everyone else is a complete failure. Jackson, my 35-year-old brother, can't stay employed for more than 6 months at a time and spends every paycheck on sports betting. My mother, Irene, 58, has been unemployed for years and is often taking out loans that she never repays. Due to her attempt to live the Instagram lifestyle that she cannot afford, my sister Savannah, 29, is heavily indebted on credit cards. In the meantime, I've saved up about $1,940,000, worked every overtime shift I could, never took a vacation, and banged my ass for years. That was the down payment for my home. I was involved in a serious accident 3 weeks ago. I don't want to go into too much detail, but in essence, half of my body was crushed when a huge piece of equipment collapsed. Before they put me in a medically induced coma due to brain swelling or something, I hardly remember the ambulance trip. My family was informed by the physicians that I might not survive. This is where things start to go crazy. They don't tell you that you can occasionally still hear everything when they place you in those comas. Your brain is still functioning even though you are unable to move, open your eyes, or talk. It feels as though you are being buried alive within your own body. Every day my folks came to visit. At first, it was the typical stuff: mom sobbing, sister standing there awkwardly and claiming she was praying for my brother. However, something changed on the 4th day. I have a clear memory of it. The nurse had just checked my vitals and departed. After a few seconds of waiting, I heard my brother approach my bed. With a quiet voice, Jackson informed my mother that he would not be able to make it. Now let's just steal his money. I believed I had misheard. I wanted to think that I had misheard. However, my own mother simply stated that he wouldn't require it anyhow. They began discussing my investments, bank accounts, and methods of access. When Jackson brought up power of attorney, my mother remarked, "The doctor said that Jackson had brain damage. He is unlikely to recall anything, even if he does wake up." In fact, my sister Savannah hesitated. "Guys, this feels wrong," she said. Jackson, however, quickly silenced her. He reminded her that all of our issues might be resolved by paying off her credit card debt. The amount of detail you notice when you are unable to move or speak is messed up. When my mother took hold of my hand, I could hear her inexpensive bangles jingling. The smell of lunchtime beer mingled with my brother's mint gum. How each square of the ceiling tiles had precisely 322 tiny holes in it. To keep myself calm, I repeatedly counted them. As they plot how to steal everything I've worked for in my life, I'm lying there, completely cognizant. I saved $94,000 over the course of 8 years. Money for which I forwent vacations. For money, I ate ramen rather than actual food. I took the bus in the dead of winter for money that I didn't use to get a car. I'm shouting in my own head the entire time. Screaming. However, nothing is revealed. Not a single twitch. The worst thing, this behavior wasn't even new. It was just the most severe. The cost of fixing Mom's roof leak last year was $7,800. I paid Jackson $2,500 when he needed bail money after being arrested for that bar fight. I gave Savannah a $3,600 loan when her car broke down, but she never returned it. I've spent my entire adult life in that safety net. And they were prepared to empty my money and split as soon as they believed I was permanently checking out. I sobbed when they left that day. Even though I was in a coma, I did cry. Victoria, one of the nurses, saw the tears. If she only knew what I had just heard, she would have washed my face and assured me that physical reactions were common in coma patients. I had to listen to them plot further specifics for the next 3 days. A man Jackson knew could assist with papers. Mom was already planning a kitchen makeover in her head. Savannah was still there, but quieter. It's still a part of it. They spoke of me as if I had already passed away. Directly before me. As she genuinely planned to rob me, my mother continued saying tragedies in a phony, depressed voice. Jackson would want us to be taken care of, he would say. In any case, he was always there to help. All of those Reddit threads about awful families and inheritance issues kept coming to mind. I never imagined being in a coma and living one. On the 7th day, a change occurred. When the doctor and my family arrived, I overheard him explain that the swelling in my brain was decreasing. They were about to begin removing me from the coma. I was responding nicely, and I had a high chance of getting better, he stated. There was an overwhelming quiet in that room. For around 30 seconds, no one spoke. Then, while Jackson questioned her about memory problems and cognitive damage, Mom began to pretend to cry over a miracle. That's when I decided what to do. I didn't want them to know that I listened to everything. Not immediately. Until I figured out how to defend myself, I was going to pretend to be the bewildered, appreciative brother's son. I could feel Nurse Victoria checking my for that night when we were alone. "Your family went out," she muttered. "Now it's just us." And I can honestly say that I was able to squeeze her hand. Almost. She froze, then resisted. "Do you hear me?" Very quietly, she asked. I squeezed once more. "Do you know when they come to visit?" One more squeeze. After a minute of silence, she added, "I'll help you, okay? Keep going." To be honest, she must have realized something was wrong with my family. Sus AF was the way individuals spoke when they believed no one was listening versus to when doctors were present. They began the process of removing me from the coma the following morning. It would take time, according to the doctors. That I wouldn't immediately be completely conscious. Ideal for my scheme. And I'm currently on Reddit. When no one else is around, I'm penning this from my hospital bed. Officially, I'm awake. However, acting as though I'm in a stupor and deluded, the doctors explain that having memory problems is common after what I've gone through. My family has been behaving quite relieved, crying and hugging one another. However, when Jackson believes I'm not looking, I catch him texting someone. I saw my mother looking at me with a calculating expression. Savannah followed their plan even though she seemed really delighted that I was awake. When no one else was present, the nurse Victoria gave me my phone. She mentioned that following an accident, her brother experienced a similar situation where family members tried to take advantage of him. She has been conducting tests that don't exist in order to give me more time alone. My pal Harold is coming over tomorrow. At the moment, he is the only one I trust. I'll tell him everything and find a way to safeguard my funds before my relatives do. I'll be released in roughly 2 weeks, according to the doctor. 2 weeks to get ready? While I was battling for my life, I had 2 weeks to build a trap for those who were prepared to rob me. Never have I been so furious. When I consider it, I can hardly see straight. However, I'm going to make sure they never again believe they can take what belongs to me. As soon as I can, I will update. Before the night nurse arrives, I have to put my phone away right now. Edit. Scott. This blew out while I was asleep, holy sh*t. I appreciate all of the honors. To answer your question, I do intend to cut them off entirely, but I must use caution in doing so. I can't just lose it right away since they'll figure out what's wrong. We'll provide updates as events develop. Second edit. Many of you advise hiring a lawyer right now. You're heard. I'm getting support from Harold on that. Do not be concerned. I am recording all of this. Update. Reddit. Hello. Scott is back. Goddamn. My first post got a ton of response. My phone was literally scorching from all the comments, so I had to disable notifications. I appreciate your help. I will require it. As I mentioned previously, I'm playing stupid even though I'm now woken from my slumber. After what occurred to me, the physicians say that confusion and memory loss are common. That's what I've been milking. My family doesn't know that I can still recall every single thing they said when they believed me to be a vegetable. The day after my last post, Harold paid me a visit. Leaving my phone unlocked so Victoria, the nurse, could text him on my behalf was the best move I've ever made. In the absence of my family, I told him everything. In 10 seconds, his expression changed from one feeling to another. At the time, He wanted to confront my family, but I persuaded him that we needed to be more intelligent than that. You see, Harold is an IT security professional and is well versed in the digital aspects that I never bothered to understand. As it happens, that will save my ass. When family came to visit, we started by making sure my phone was always hidden under my blanket or pillow. Began recording all of the conversations. They've said enough dodgy stuff to complete a documentary in the 3 days since I woke up. The most screwed up aspect? Like Jekyll and Hyde, they will say one thing while we're alone and then say something quite different when nurses or physicians enter. Mom nodded in agreement when Jackson told me yesterday that I should concentrate on getting better rather than worrying about difficult issues like money. Then my doctor entered, and all of a sudden, they were grateful that he was still alive. Family is very important to us. I feel like throwing up. Listening to the recordings is difficult. Yesterday, Jackson asked me if I could still remember my banking credentials. Pretended that he wanted to see to it that my payments were paid while I was recuperating. I noticed the tiny spark in his eye when I muttered something about not knowing. Horrible. Mom continues to bring me home-cooked meals. By the way, that tastes like shit. And taking on a parental role. Then, when she believes I'm sleeping, she's on the phone discussing using the upcoming funds to renovate her kitchen. They are unaware of how busy Harold and I have been. We started by changing all of my bank account passwords. Then, for financial alerts, we set up a whole separate email that they are unaware of. The truly brilliant thing, though, was that we made fake accounts. Harold discovered a software that creates phony financial windows that appear completely authentic. We configured my phone with numbers that were somewhat similar to, but not exactly the same as my actual accounts. $1,87,000 rather than my real $1,94,000. Just enough that I can blame the accident for my memory problems if they discover it later. Savannah nearly blew the trap when she saw me texting Harold from the restroom. I pretended that I needed someone to remind me of the day because I couldn't remember it. I could tell she was doubtful, but she still bought it. Later, it was necessary to crank up the bewildered patient act. To sell it, he even drooled a little during meals. Worth it, but not my proudest moment. My cognitive function is improving more quickly than anticipated, according to the experts. I've been pretending to be much more confused than I actually am in order to hide this from my family. I ask the same questions over and over again, gaze blankly, and forget words in the middle of sentences while they're around. I think it was an Oscar-worthy performance. 3 days ago, the next stage of our plan was completed. Jackson arrived at the hospital with real documents. Forms for power of attorney. He told Mom that this would simply make things easier for everyone, and I feigned to be half asleep. He even dared to ask the doctor if I was psychologically capable of making my own choices. Fortunately, my doctor, who I'm beginning to suspect is suspicious, stated that I'm still legally able to make my own decisions even though I'm experiencing some normal cognitive problems. The expression Jackson had. I would have laughed if I wasn't so angry. Consequently, I took a risk. The documents were signed by me, however. This is where Harold's brilliance comes in. Since I'm right-handed, I signed them with my left hand and purposefully typed my own middle name incorrectly. This document won't work if these jerks attempt to utilize it. Because Victoria managed to smuggle in a notary friend during the night shift, we already have a legitimate power of attorney with Harold that has been duly notarized. In relation to Victoria, she is deserving of a goddamn medal. She has been interfering, allowing me to speak with Harold in private, and even sneaking my laptop in. When Jackson became overly interested in my treatment plan yesterday, she unintentionally spilled water on him. When this is all over, I'm sending her the largest gift basket ever created. The closest I got to blowing everything up was last night. Mom was using my iPad to browse Pinterest kitchen renovations while she sat next to my bed, displaying potential backsplash alternatives for Savannah once everything was settled. I had to pretend to cough in order for them to call the nurse and allow me a minute to relax because I was gripping my sheets so tightly that my knuckles became white. I feel like I've never felt such rage before. It's tangible. My vision genuinely blurs and my heart thuds. I sometimes picture myself yelling, "I heard everything you said" when I was in the coma, and watching their faces fall apart as they are speaking. However, that would destroy all of our preparations. He refers to what Harold and I have established as a financial honeypot. About $1,280,000 is still in my old accounts as bait, but the majority of my actual money has been transferred to new, secured accounts that they are unable to access. My phone's decoy banking software displays phony balances that appear legitimate. My recovery took a significant turn yesterday when I suddenly remembered my banking passwords. I told Jackson, in a pitiful, appreciative tone, how fortunate I was to have relatives watching out for me and asked if he could help me check my accounts because I was still struggling with numbers. The avaricious jerk almost sprang for my phone. As the phony balance loaded, I saw his eyes brighten. $26,750 in savings, $87,223 in checking. Although they are not my actual figures, they are reasonably close. He offered right away to assist with financial planning while I was recovering. I will be released tomorrow. Playing confused and weak for 2 weeks has paid off. They don't know what's going on. Jackson has offered for me to stay at his house until I recover. Claims it will be simpler than my third-floor walk-up. His true goal is to control me by having access to 24/7. This thankful puppy dog act made me want to take a shower afterward, and I agreed with it. While we complete the remaining details of our plan, we will be staying with him for a maximum of 3 days. The strangest thing, when the others left to get coffee this morning, Savannah took me aside. She had red eyes, like if she had been sobbing. She inquired as to my true well-being and whether I needed anything. I was on the verge of telling her everything for a moment, but then I realized that she had been sitting quietly as they plotted to rob me. There is no longer any trust. Broken to pieces. They assume I'm getting cleaned up because I'm typing this from a hospital restroom while the shower is running. My car is still at my apartment, therefore Harold will be picking me up in his tomorrow. I've received stringent instructions from the doctors on physical therapy, rehab, and follow-up appointments. My family has already discussed how costly this will all be and how wise it is that you have been saving. They are unaware of what is going to happen to them. A fraud probe will be initiated by the fictitious accounts. Accounts are frozen. 3 days after I move in with Jackson, I'm alert. I'll be prepared to switch to Harold's guest room by then. I'm angry and terrified, and I cry in the toilet occasionally, but I'm also more driven than ever. Reddit. When they believed I was dying, these people, my so-called family, were prepared to steal from me. From that, there's no turning back. After everything is down, I'll probably post my next update. Send positive energy or whatever the plan calls for. They've undoubtedly been ignoring me for years since I've never been adept at confrontation, but this time is different. They had an affair with the wrong man this time. Edit. Scott. Stop telling me to hire a lawyer, please. We are receiving pro bono assistance from Harold's sister, a lawyer. This is something we can handle. Second edit. Some of you are arguing that because Savannah hesitated, I should forgive her. Standing up for me is not the same as hesitating. She nevertheless complied. I don't trust anyone with my last name at the moment, but perhaps she will have an opportunity to clarify later. Third edit. I'll be released in 2 hours. Jackson is bringing me a t-shirt and sweatpants to take home. Please pardon me while I inspect them for poison or hidden trackers. I'm only partly kidding. The last update. Wow, to start. My last 2 posts have received incredible support. I apologize for being absent for nearly 2 weeks. I needed time to comprehend everything that had happened. This update is incredible, so fasten your seatbelt. I thus moved in with Jackson as scheduled after being released from the hospital. It was a catastrophe in his apartment. There are empty beer cans all about. A sink piled high with crusty food. I was really terrified to use the bathroom. However, I continued to act like the grateful little brother. Every time he assisted me in checking my banking app, I grinned despite my clenched teeth. All of them. Unmarried. Observing his actual way of life was the most peculiar aspect of staying with him. There were precisely 3 items in his refrigerator: beer, ketchup, and a partially consumed tortilla that may have harbored penicillin. Despite being 35, the man lives like a first-year college student. He kept saying that he might move to a larger apartment once things stabilized. Where was that money going to come from, I wonder? The second day at Jackson's. Mom and Savannah arrived. The handmade dinner they delivered was obviously merely takeout that had been moved to Tupperware. I looked out the window and saw the fucking DoorDash man. Mom showed me Pinterest boards on her phone and talked about kitchen remodeling during the entire lunch. She kept saying things like, "Honey, how do you feel about this backsplash?" As though I cared. Under the table, I saw Jackson texting all the time. Later, while feigning confusion about where to place my dish, I unintentionally caught a glance of his screen. Regarding receiving the money by Friday and repaying what I owe plus interest, he was texting a guy named Dave. Debts from gambling, of course. Jackson was on the phone that evening after everyone had left, and I feigned dozing off on the couch. He simply informed whoever it was that my brother didn't need to know and that he will have the money shortly. Even though my blood was boiling, I maintained a steady breathing pattern. The hardest acting job I've ever had. The real fun started on the third day. Harold had made a fake online banking portal, and I handed Jackson the login credentials. I told him I needed his assistance since I was experiencing problems paying my bills. The avaricious jerk was unable to type the information quickly enough. Reddit, I swear to God. You would think he had won the jackpot based on the expression on his face when he noticed those account balances. He was scrolling over my transaction and was licking his lips. I wanted him to take care of everything, so he asked if I was certain. I performed it flawlessly. Bewildered, appreciative, and completely ignorant. I sneaked out to meet Harold at Starbucks that afternoon while Jackson was off running errands, most likely chatting with his bookie. The adrenaline kept me moving even though my legs were still weak from spending so much time in the hospital. The last part of our strategy, a fictitious transaction approval screen that would appear when they attempted to transfer funds from my accounts, had already been set up by Harold. Jackson didn't even realize I was gone when I returned. He was too preoccupied in making plans with his mother over the phone. I went to bed early and feigned taking extra pain medication. I was prepared to travel to Harold's residence by dawn. Jackson, however, requested a tiny favor before I could leave. Could he temporarily move some funds to his account to pay for some of the costs he had incurred while looking after me? Just $1,500, which he would undoubtedly reimburse shortly. I remarked to him, "Of course, family helps family," with these large appreciative eyes. I showed him the transfer success screen after entering his account information and logging into the phony site. He gave me a real hug. I did everything I could to avoid punching him in the face while he was lying. I arrived safely at Harold's house an hour later, and we waited. The shit struck the fan precisely 26 hours later. 4 consecutive times, Jackson was the first to call. I didn't respond. Then Mom called. Savannah comes next. Then I saw an unknown number, most likely that of one of Jackson's loser pals. I had 22 SMS and 37 missed calls in 3 hours. The texts began in a panic and soon became irate. "The money didn't go through, Jackson, you know. Are you able to check your account? I really need that transfer as soon as possible, Jackson and Scott. Call me immediately regarding your accounts, Mom, honey. The bank claims your accounts are frozen, Jackson. What the fuck? Pick up your phone, Mom, Scott. This is significant. Are you fucking kidding me now, Jackson?" As it happens, Jackson attempted to send more than the $1,500 that we had agreed upon right away. A fraud alert appeared on Harold's phony banking portal. When he attempted to access it again, the notification, "All accounts temporarily frozen," appeared. Better yet, Harold had set it up to display that the system had identified several suspicious transfer requests and illegal access attempts totaling $47,860. Yes, exactly. As soon as he believed it had cleared, this jerk attempted to spend half of my alleged funds. It's not even the greatest part, though. I discovered on social media that Jackson had made a deposit on a new truck during those 26 hours of ignoring their calls. Next week, Mom had arranged for workmen to begin renovating her kitchen. Savannah shared a ridiculous motivational message along with a photo on Instagram about becoming debt-free at last. They never would have and didn't have the money to spend. I ignored them for 2 days before responding to their text. Just a simple, "I'm sorry." Was I feeling awful? What's happening? I'm playing dumb for the final time. There was an incredible volume of messages. It turns out that Mom had already placed an order for kitchen cabinetry totaling $1,900. Jackson was liable for a truck deposit of $7,500. He was unable to return. That morning, Savannah paid off $1,110,000 in credit card debt. To work things out, I agreed to have dinner with them at Mom's house. I informed them that I was also perplexed by what was occurring with my accounts. They fully purchased it. It felt unreal to enter Mom's home that evening. They all appeared really worried out as they sat around the kitchen table. It was obvious Mom had been crying. Sweat was seeping through Jackson's shirt. Savannah was the only one who appeared more perplexed than terrified. I continued the charade for the first 20 minutes. Asked naive inquiries regarding the situation. Allow them to explain why my accounts were acting strangely. Jackson insisted that it was most likely only a brief system error that will be fixed shortly. I placed my phone on the table after that. Press the record button on the app. The room is filled with their own sound. He will fail to make it. Now let's just steal his money. In any case, he won't require it. He is unlikely to recall anything, even if he does wake up. The ensuing hush was deafening. Mom's expression turned white. Jackson's beer was halfway to his mouth when he froze. Savannah burst into tears at once. I merely sat there. Remained silent. Play the recordings. Each and every one. Every discussion they had while I was in the hospital. They thought I couldn't hear every strategy they made. Each and every syllable. The recording ceased, and I spoke at last. From my hospital bed, I informed them that I had heard everything. That during my time in the coma, I recalled everything they said. That the accounts they were attempting to access were fraudulent. That my actual money was hidden away, out of sight. Jackson blew up. Began yelling that I had deceived and set them up. He didn't see the irony at all. Mom immediately went into victim mode. They were merely attempting to be realistic and would have told me everything if I had recovered, I sobbed. Savannah's reply was the most unexpected. She simply said, "I'm so sorry," repeatedly. Claimed that although she felt it was wrong, she lacked the courage to confront them. Pleaded with me to think that after I recovered, she would tell me everything. I refrained from screaming. Did not cry. I simply expressed my thoughts on each of them to them. How they had shown their actual selves. How there was no way out of this situation. How, from now on, they were alone. Mom tried to use family and blood to guilt-trip me. And all that nonsense. All I did was laugh in her face. Told her that the once she determined that my money was more important than my life, she ceased to be my mother. Jackson said he would somehow make me pay. He talked about attempting to obtain power of attorney while I was brain injured, so I played him that portion of the tape. I informed him that I had already forwarded copies to both his girlfriend and his employer. That quickly silenced him. I told Savannah that I needed some time. That at least she hesitated, even though she didn't stop them. That we might be able to talk eventually, but not any time soon. They were seated at the table when I left them. Mom is crying uncontrollably. Jackson is furious. Savannah appears to be broken. Left without turning around. 2 weeks have passed since then. Unbelievably, Jackson's vehicle financing has since failed. Additionally, the dealership is suing him, claiming that Mom lost her deposit and was forced to postpone her kitchen makeover. Due to the reversal of her credit card payments, Savannah is again back in debt. I had a new security system installed when I returned to my residence. I updated my phone number. Kept the old one to observe the influx of frantic texts. When Jackson arrived at my house intoxicated, Harold assisted me in setting up cameras. The most surprising thing that happened. Through Harold, hospital nurse Victoria made contact. It turns out that years ago, she experienced a similar situation with her own family. Next week, we're going out for coffee. We'll see, but I'm not claiming it's romantic just yet. I've been out of that coma for a month now. After lying and scheming for a month, justice was eventually served. I'm not as content as I had anticipated. I feel empty most of the time. As if I had twice lost my family. I was betrayed by them once. And once more when I interrupted them. However, I feel stronger in some way as well. After a lifetime of protecting them, I finally stood up for myself. Yesterday, Savannah texted my new number. She must have gotten it from Harold. She mentioned she was beginning therapy and asked how I was doing. I still haven't replied. I'm not sure if I will. Reddit, that's it. The whole tale. I appreciate you joining me on this crazy journey. At least I now know who I can truly trust, even though I'm not sure what will happen next. Scott, it's definitely not the folks who have my DNA.